Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast. Hopefully, a short one, because we are in overtime on The Rock. One of the Holy Trinity
baby.
films. I mean, we were trying to avoid this, but you know what? The best laid plans of mice and men. You know what I'm saying. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How's our energy? How are we feeling?
I'm craving a correct hot dog with raw onion and sauerkraut and spicy mustard.
I can't have this conversation again with you. And
No, you
there's
can't.
our Sopranos reference.
There's
This
a
is-
Sopranos reference.
That's for the Patreons.
Yeah, if you want the context, patreon.com/NickCageFight, go give us $1 and get all of our references.
So, where we last left off, we had finally made it onto Alcatraz with our intrepid heroes, but we didn't get super far. A bunch of SEALs got slaughtered. The general
Just fucking clubbed.
What was that? Oh, yeah.
SEALs
That's a
got
good one.
fucking clubbed.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Mason basically straight up tells Stanley he's leaving. This whole thing is fucked. It's ruined. I'm out. And Stanley gets on the radio where he's instructed to stop Mason from leaving and try and two-man this shit as essentially non-combatants for the most part. Meanwhile, the general seems genuinely upset at the bloodshed, while his men seem a little bit kill-happy. This is a trend that's going to continue.
And it's a trend that should have been a more interesting subplot. Like having him be the noble seditionist trying to do something that he finds morally correct, and his people being more bloodthirsty than he is. I think that would have been a more interesting film.
Well, I mean, they do it, but they just...
They
they dedicate 2.5 minutes to it. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you have 8 goddamn screenwriters. So, the general sends a bit of an ominous message to the Pentagon folks before shutting down the final minicam. Paxton drags the FBI director out and insists on knowing more about who this Mason character is. Mason apparently stole all of J. Edgar Hoover's blackmail files. That's what he did.
Baller as shit.
Yeah, that is a really funny plot point.
Mason stashed the files before being picked up by the U.S. government and has been essentially detained without trial ever since. Stanley, meanwhile, chases down Mason and holds him at gunpoint. Mason disarms Stanley like it's a game. And in a last-ditch effort, Stanley explains the nature of these chemical weapons and how Mason's daughter is in the blast zone for these things. The general, meanwhile, and his team realize that they missed some members of the SEAL team and instructs his men to flush out the rats, wrap up this loose end. And so they go about trying to track down Stanley and Mason. Stanley is still trying to convince Mason, although the bit with the daughter essentially sealed the deal for him, as the general's men start dropping explosive devices down the storm drains, and Stanley and Mason are forced to run and dive and barely survive the initial blast, and then the general's men drop a larger bomb because this is a Michael Bay film. So the larger bomb is supposed to essentially send waves of fire down a tunnel in classic movie trope fashion. And
Just like Judge Dredd.
Yeah, and Stanley and Mason flee as far as they can before saving themselves by diving in the water that's been the same level the entire time they were running. So I'm assuming they could have just dunked their heads under the water at any point in time.
Time for another Rock fun fact. Sean Connery demanded that the water for all of his underwater scenes be heated to 90 degrees because he's an old man. And apparently most of the crew got a stomach virus because, end quote, it was a giant incubator.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
That's like an uncleaned hot tub. They're lucky they left with all their limbs.
Yeah.
Seriously. So Mason appears to be convinced of the nobility of this mission, or at the necessity, at the very least, of this mission, and starts leading Stanley deeper into the prison. Mason gives Stanley his gun back and asks if he's ready, and here's where we get probably the most memorable line of the entire film, because Stanley's initial response is that he'll try his best. To which Mason replies that losers always whine about trying their best, and winners go home and fuck the prom queen. At which point...
End the movie.
At which point...
it should have been.
Stanley responds that Carla was the prom queen. And Mason goes, really? And Stanley goes, yeah, and cocks his gun. By the way, I don't think that ever works that way. These guns are locked and loaded. He's just ejecting a shell for no reason at this point.
It looks cool. It's entertainment.
Looks super
Who
cool.
gives a fuck?
It's I think it was an internet skit where a guy keeps racking the chamber of a shotgun while threatening somebody, but he's just ejecting unspent shells every time he does it.
Yeah.
He's like, you better get off my land. Just an unshot shotgun shell goes flying out of the thing. I wish they included that in these action movies. That'd be funnier to me. So we get the boys storm the morgue, which is one of the locations of these rockets, and we get an insane scene where Mason throws a knife and the camera like follows the knife like an 80s action movie as opposed to a 90s action movie. Did you guys catch this?
I found a ninth screenwriter.
Where are you finding these people?
I don't fucking know, man. Harry Humphreys helped Ed Harris rework some of his dialogue. There is a ninth screenwriter on this.
Sir, Mr. President, a ninth screenwriter has hit the rock.
Where are they coming from?
This is too much. This is too
Saudi
much.
Arabia.
It is absurd that this movie even got made.
How does this exist?
That's something else. So this was another scene that had the very noticeable Connery stunt double that just was distracting the shit out of me. So Mason outshoots the final soldier left in the morgue, who's wounded but not dead. And he goes to pull the pin on a grenade, but Mason then shoots some sort of ductwork above him. So a whole filtration unit falls on his upper body, crushing him before he can activate the grenade. At this point, Stanley sets about disarming the rockets. There is a very funny bit here where the crushed soldier's leg keeps twitching, and Stanley is like, is that normal? And Mason's like, oh yeah, that happens sometimes. He's like, well, can you stop it? It's very distracting. And
This is Quentin Tarantino 100%.
Yeah, Mason's like, what do you want me to do? Kill him again?
Yeah.
It is a foot scene. It is technically a foot scene.
Right on the money.
The way these rockets are disarmed is the center part of the rocket has to be taken out. There's these pearl strings of the VX gas that have to be pulled out. And then your arm has to be inserted all the way in the empty casing to pull out a guidance chip so that there's no way the rockets can ever hit land. They land in the water and detonate, and somehow that means that this very toxic substance is fine. No harm. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, my first thought was, like, wouldn't this really affect the diet of most of these people?
That would be my guess, but they also said that the chemical only works when it's aerosolized.
No, they say that the chemical's efficacy is increased when it's aerosolized.
Okay.
Which is crazy because remember, if it was just based on aerosolizing, that dude wouldn't have died in that room when the fucking goop globe broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. It's fine if he gets dumped into San Francisco Bay, apparently.
Movie magic.
It's nuts. So the generals clue into the situation. The general's men clue into the situation in the morgue and race down there, with Stanley barely pulling out the last guidance chip in time before fleeing through a trash chute. Now, this is where they deal with almost every single one of the 15 rockets. Apparently, most of them were in the morgue for whatever reason.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
We'll get to the numbers because they define the remaining rocket numbers later, a little bit later in the film. But this was probably my least favorite. The upcoming one is my least favorite scene in the movie because it makes the least amount of sense. After the trash chute ends in like a cartoon, literal minecart scene.
It's the minecart scene from Resident Evil 4.
I was thinking Donkey Kong.
Did you guys know that this movie? Yeah, did you guys know that this movie was shot by Jason Schwartzman's dad?
Who is also a Coppola, I believe.
He is also a Coppola, yeah.
Or his mom's a Coppola. He's in that family.
At this point, I think you're fucking with me.
No, I'm not. That is 100% true. John Schwartzman was the DOP on this.
And Jason Schwartzman is technically a Coppola somehow.
He is. He's like a second cousin or something to Nick.
That's ridiculous. So, back to this minecart scene. They come out of the chute on this minecart on this track that starts shooting down the track and ends where the tracks just are broken and they go to fall. Like, fucking Stanley jumps off and makes it into a separate hanging metal bucket thing on an overhead track.
It looked like an iron cast almost. Like
it is.
You would like melt down metal in.
It makes no fucking sense. Mason, meanwhile, careens over the edge, but is tangled up in a rope that was for some reason connected to this cart on this track. So he's dangling upside down as the general's men sort of zero in on them, right? Stanley is hiding in this hanging metal bucket at dodging gunfire from the general's men, while this is where Mason's requested squirt bottle of kerosene, specifically a squirt bottle, comes into play because one of the general's men is on the track above him, does not notice him dangling underneath, so Mason squirts kerosene up along the rope and the Marine's legs, and then uses
By the
one
way,
of
this
his
was Dr.
matches
Cox.
to light it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The flaming soldier falls. Now him and Mason are both dangling from this rope. Mason climbs up to grab the tracks and cuts the rope free, sending the flaming soldier to fall to his death into the water below. Stanley pops up from the bucket to check for Mason as the soldiers open fire on the bucket and chuck a grenade in it, but they don't cook it, so Stanley just throws it back, which is great.
And all of this happens in the course of like 2 minutes, which is hilarious because I just found a little statistic for you guys. The average shot length of this film is 2.6 seconds.
Really?
Yes.
Now that is a fun fucking fact.
That's the funnest fact I found.
So, oh my god. So now we have a swinging bucket fight scene as Stanley sends his swinging bucket down this line, and the other soldiers just pile into another bucket and give chase. Full-on cartoon level shit right here, right?
Yeah, it's a Looney Tunes bit.
It is, 100%. At the end of the line, Mason has somehow gotten over and ambushes the bucket soldiers, kicking one off to fall to his death. And then starting to be strangled by the remaining one, who Stanley pops out of his metal bucket and shoots the other soldier dead, saving Mason. This is where Mason reveals to Stanley that he was trained by British intelligence. And then we cut to the Pentagon, where the Brain Trust is instructed to string along the general until they can get those test phase thermite plasma bombs loaded onto planes to just glass Alcatraz, apparently. Hummel, meanwhile, back at Alcatraz, gets on the PA system where he's taken one of the hostages and threatens to kill the man if they don't turn over the guidance chips. Mason takes the chips from Stanley at this point and stomps on them, destroying them. There are only 3 more missiles for Stanley to disarm, which means 12 of the 15 missiles were in the morgue. That's absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd. They could have stolen way less missiles. That dude didn't have to die. He died for nothing. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Mason says he's going to try and buy Stanley some time to get to the last 3 missiles, and Stanley asks, what about the hostages? I do love this scene, because this is a scene they use in the trailer. Mason turns and just gives Stanley a thumbs up, and then it cuts back to Stanley, and Stanley like gives a thumbs up. He's like, the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? I asked you about the hostages. I asked a specific question that demands a specific answer, and you just give me a thumbs up? It's kind of funny. Stanley sets up to go get the rockets, and Mason turns himself over to the general and his men, explaining he's all that's left of the SEAL team. Mason identifies himself to the general, while Stanley locates at least one of the additional missiles and starts disarming it. As Stanley is working on it, soldiers rappel like upside down Spider-Man style to surprise him and attack him. Luckily,
This movie
only
is such a fucking video.
I know
It is.
Only
Why
once...
didn't they make this into a fucking video game? This could have been a Metal Gear Solid.
Speaking of movie video games, because it was just going to be like, I would have played this game like I played the Riddick video game.
Oh, that one whipped ass. You know what was pretty
so
good
fucking
too?
good.
The PS2 Scarface game that starts off with Scarface surviving the ending of Scarface.
The World Ends With
That
You?
was good.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes. Because it's a GTA clone, but with
Yeah.
Scarface.
By the way, fun fact for Riddick fans, there's another Riddick movie coming out.
Yeah, there's also a
just
second
announced
Riddick
it.
video game that is not as good as Butcher Bay.
Oh, really? I was
Yeah.
not aware of that.
It's not great.
Ah,
It's like the
that's
same
fun.
style, but it did not catch that lightning in a bottle like Escape from Butcher Bay did.
Dude, the fucking fist fights in that were so brutal. Anyway.
The ship fights, man!
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So Stanley is attacked, but luckily after he's already replaced the very sensitive VX gas pearls, Mason calls out what the general is doing, says it's lunacy, and that he thinks the general is a fucking idiot. They trade quotes back and forth about patriotism. General Hummel doing the fucking what was the Turner Diaries, like the Tree of Liberty must be occasionally refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Yeah.
And then Mason quotes back, I think Oscar Wilde, something about...
I think it was, yeah. Because it was
yeah.
witty, unlike the other one.
Yeah, correct. I unfortunately didn't write it down, but I did like that quote. I'll have to go back and get it. So at this point, the general starts hitting Mason, asking him where the guidance chips are, and Mason informs him that they've been destroyed. They all, Mason, the general, and his men hear gunfire at this point. And speaking of broken chips, Stanley destroys the one he most recently removed. That brings us to 2 rockets left. He's then grabbed and thrown out of a window as he's taken into custody by the soldiers. Stanley and Mason are then locked up in cells in Alcatraz. Stanley's laying in his cell fixated on one of the threats that was uttered at him as he was captured, which was, "I'll gut you like a fish, boy." And we do get a great bit of Cage repeating this line in different inflections, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then he informs Mason there's still 2 missiles left. The Pentagon gets word that the thermite bombs are operational and loaded to go. And we cut to the Air Force Base where the men are informed if they are greenlit, they're going to bomb Alcatraz completely. Basically wipe it off the map. So in the cells, Stanley is told by Mason why he was in prison in the first place. And then we get a really funny bit where Stanley is like, okay, so to get out, you had to sneak through the tunnels. You had to get past the fire and the wheels and all this stuff. But how did you ever get out of the cell in the first place? I'm only asking because it's critical to our current situation. The entire time he's talking, Mason is like ripping up sheets and braiding them and tying something together with them, and then like bullying them over to apparently what controls the cell doors in Alcatraz is just a series of levers conveniently within reach down the hallway. And Mason, during Stanley's monologue here, unlocks his own cell and then unlocks Stanley's cell, freeing them both. So the general's men at this point start pressuring him to, you got to launch a missile or kill some hostages so that they know they mean business, because the deadline's getting closer and it's pretty clear that they're not intending to pay. So Mason is going to try and leave again at this point because he promised himself he wouldn't die on Alcatraz, so he just has to get off the island to die to keep this promise to himself, and explains that he's not worried because he looked in the general's eye and he's not going to fire these missiles. He's not prepared to do this. Stanley throws a little bit of a hissy fit and is like, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, but I get the hissy fit because he said the same thing to Stanley, and Stanley has now at this point killed like 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie has a surprisingly low body count. It's only like 25 people die. Also, I've got another fun fact. Did you know that this is footballer Cristiano Ronaldo's favorite film?
Good taste.
I was going to say, yeah, he seems like an idiot.
Yes.
Come on now. So, sure enough, we're now 3 minutes to the deadline, and the men continue to hound the general. Just then the phone rings. It's the Pentagon, and they say they need another hour. The general reiterates they have 3 minutes. And the men are like, all right, you have to launch a rocket now. So Mason continues to leave the island, going so far as to punch Stanley as he tries to physically restrain him. And so this is where Stanley goes, I'm going to stop it myself, and they part ways. So the general starts preparing for a launch of the missile. Stanley, meanwhile, is immediately caught when he goes back. Like, immediately held up at gunpoint by one of the soldiers. We do get another, what I think is a good unhinged Cage movie, or Cage moment, where he's like, glass or plastic, glass or plastic. You guys remember this bit, right?
I do remember this bit, yeah.
Essentially explaining what's going to happen to all of them if, this gas is released. And
Might I suggest an ad break?
Sure, we could do that. Just the one.
Yeah, I can have an ad break as a treat.
Yeah, just a little treat.
Yeah, a little treat of capitalism.
Fire up the dick pill ads. Let's hit them with it.
Now, is there another company other than Rhino 69 shilling dick pills right now? Is that a regional thing? I need to know.
In Mexico, they had Dick Tea.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Oh, you're familiar with the Dick Tea?
I'm well and truly familiar with the Dick Tea.
Is that like 3 penis wine?
Basically, yeah. It's 100% like 3 penis wine. Every culture has their own dick pill that's not in pill form. I'm specifically interested in the pills.
That's American dick culture.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because we like bumping them, so. Some
might even say that oysters are the original dick pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, it's honestly, all of it is a placebo effect.
100%. Yeah.
But whatever gets you hard, man. I'm not gonna try and rain on anybody's parade.
I know in Vietnam they eat it's like a cobra venom shot that's supposed to help with your virility.
Yeah, well, that shit probably does flare the fuck out of your capillaries. That might actually work.
Yeah.
So while Stanley is pleading with this soldier to do the right thing, Mason just shows up and unceremoniously breaks this man's neck. And when Stanley is surprised to see him again, he's like, well, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if your kid had to grow up without a father. Meanwhile, the general prepares, and executes the launch of one of the 2 remaining missiles. It's headed for a football game. And, everybody's watching it go. And at the last second, the general punches something in on his little control pad. And the rocket veers off and crashes into the water. Again, no concerns about the VX gas going off underwater for whatever fucking reason.
No, it's fine. It's fine if it goes off underwater, apparently.
Yeah, I put to have it fall harmlessly ? Into the ocean.
Wait. Is it called VF gas? Like
VX.
Really? VX. Okay, visual effects gas.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is cool. Super cool.
It's
Michael
lazy.
Bay. It's so lazy. It is one of the coolest looking MacGuffins in like 90s action movies. Those little green balls.
Those green balls are sinister. I'm not gonna lie. They look super fucking cool. So this is great. Stanley's happy to see the rocket like fall into the ocean, but there is still 1 rocket left, and my dogs are fighting in the background.
I see him. Look him go.
And Jackie's about to start yelling because he likes trying to provoke.
I'm not cutting any of this.
Jackie, come on, man! I'm trying to record a podcast. So,
Nope, just deal with it. We're
our
good.
other co-host here.
Press through it.
So, the one of the captains is super pissed off about the rocket, while the general's right-hand man Baxter dismisses the other soldiers from the room. And Baxter confronts the general and tells him to get on the phone with the Pentagon and extend the deadline. Get them some more time. Let's salvage this shit. It gets to the point where Baxter even tries to make the call himself. And I do have to say, we've criticized and praised dialogue in equal measures in this. This is a good series of lines delivered by Ed Harris. Because he's like, hang up that phone. This is a command. This is an order from your commanding officer. This is a friend asking you. This is your last chance as a man with a gun. Like that was such a cool series of lines, and Ed Harris delivers them masterfully.
Ed Harris is very good in this fucking movie.
Ed Harris is good in almost every fucking movie.
Yeah.
Baxter finally acquiesces at this point. And at the Pentagon, the decision to bomb Alcatraz is agonized over a little bit in rhetoric, but the planes are fueled and launched and approved. They're going to bomb Alcatraz. This is the only scene where we see the president. He's like, this is super fucked up, but we're going to bomb the shit out of Alcatraz. And that is basically the only bit with the president in the film.
And that is probably why he's uncredited.
The general is confronted again by the other soldiers, and he confirms that he did in fact redirect the rocket. The general explains, this is a bluff. They called our bluff. The mission is over. It's done. We have a backup plan for this. You're going to take a couple hostages, the remaining missile, and you're going to take off. And this is where the Candyman guy is like, yeah, that's all well and good, General, but what about the fucking money? The general's like, this is the deal. I'm not a madman. We're not going to murder a bunch of fucking civilians, you psychos. Stanley and Mason, by the way, are eavesdropping nearby at this point. And it comes to a full-on mutiny as the men go to relieve the general of his command and restrain him. This immediately turns into a Mexican standoff as the general pulls his gun. This is also another like badass moment. We got to give Ed Harris his credit here, because he's like, General, I have to take that sidearm, and he's like, oh, you mean this sidearm, and just points it at the dude's head. It's amazing.
Yep.
I did read that Ed Harris had a bit of a problem with the way that this movie was shot because it was mostly done in close-ups for him when he says he acts with his whole body, and I could totally see that.
Yeah, he's rock hard in every scene.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. That's why they only had to film him from the waist up.
Yeah. They should have just filmed him from the waist down. Man's got a hammer. So
Throbbing thunderhammer.
Goddamn tripod.
So Baxter, the general's right hand man, pulls his gun and then puts it to the general's head, saying, you know, it's been the greatest honor of my life to serve under you, General, sir. But, you know, this is the end. And then he immediately turns it on the mutineers, and we get a Reservoir Dogs style shootout with Mason just joining in for fun, just firing into the room of people, which is really great. Also, you can probably bet Tarantino had some input on this scene because it's so Reservoir Dogs, 100%.
Yeah.
So Mason and Stanley retrieve the general, who is mortally wounded, unfortunately, and pull him out of the firefight. The general tells Stanley where the final rocket is, and then going, "My God, what have I done?" and then dies. Stanley runs off to disarm the remaining rocket while Mason continues his shootout with the mutineers, who throw grenades at him. He jumps into a very conveniently placed tub to survive the blast. And now, is that accurate? I've seen this in 100 movies. I'm assuming it's like old-timey tubs that are made out of iron or something.
I was going to say my assumption that it is an enameled cast iron tub as opposed to a porcelain tub. The same material that my Dutch oven is made out of.
Yeah, so if you have a big enough Dutch oven, can you survive a grenade blast if you jump in it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you might get, your bell's going to get rung a little bit. But as long as you're like out of the spread of the shrapnel, I think you're probably fine.
Well, I mean, that's the whole idea, right? The shrapnel would be going overhead, and as long as you're okay, yeah, all right, that tracks. So, we've answered the question in my notes. Does that actually work? The answer is yes, only if it's a very old timey tub. Mine is completely plastic. I'd be dead.
I am going to double check to make sure that cast iron enameled tubs were a thing, but that's my like gut reaction for what that could actually be.
Yeah, a hot bath is just turning yourself into human soup, I guess, in one of those things.
Correct.
So Stanley gets to the final rocket and starts to disarm it. As he does, one of the Candyman guy shows up.
They absolutely exist. That is apparently the standard from like fucking 50 years ago and
Gotcha. We used to be a proper country with Dutch oven tubbies.
Yeah, now if you wanted one of those, it's like $6,000 on the low end.
Damn.
I fucking bet. Go to estate sales, baby. That's where you're gonna pick one up on the cheap.
Yeah, I have a good website that I will sponsor when they give us money.
There you go.
I love money.
So
I
when
can't believe you love money too.
we have so much in common, it's crazy. So Stanley holds up the VX pearls as the man threatens him with a gun. So the guy puts down the gun and pulls out a knife. Unfortunately, this guy ends up standing directly in front of the VX-less remaining rocket. And I'm not sure if I like this series of lines or not.
I don't, but I also didn't realize that Rocket Man was playing when Cage was getting his fuck on earlier.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, do you like the song Rocket Man by Elton John? He's like, I don't like soft shit. He's like, well, I only asked because it's you. You're the Rocket Man. And then he fires the rocket, like, right into the guy. You get it?
I mean, he could have at least thrown a burning out your fuse out here alone in there.
And he's like, what about the Shatner version? You know what I mean? You fuck with that?
Oh, I fuck with the Shatner version hard.
So it knocks the man out of the window to fall to his death. Stanley races to the top of the lighthouse, continue pulling the chip out of the missile. I'm guessing because there's still other missiles they could load the payload into, one of the unfired 12 rockets in the fucking morgue. However, as he pulls the pearls to get to the chip, one ball comes loose and rolls towards the edge of the lighthouse. Stanley grabs it just in time. He's unfortunately spotted at this point by the Marine who threatened to gut him like a fish, who starts firing at him. Stanley stashes the pearl string in a drainage gate on the lighthouse, and then pulls the chip, still in possession of that remaining loose ball of VX gas. As the gunner ditches his heavy machine gun in favor of a sniper, Mason ambushes him and throws him off the roof. One of the remaining mutineers at this point is stalking Stanley, firing at him because he has the one remaining chip. The planes continue their approach on the island. Mason ends up in a fight with another of the soldiers, who he's getting beaten until he manages to get the upper hand. And then this is just a cool death scene. This is one of those, it doesn't need to make sense because it's dope. He like wraps a chain around the dude's neck. The other end of the chain is connected to weights that he like kicks off the edge of something, and strangles the guy. It's cool.
Yeah, it's like that scene from, what was that movie 2 movies ago we did? Not The Trust, the one that was bad.
Rage?
Rage?
Was it
Is
Rage?
that it? I don't know. It's the one where the dude's daughter gets killed. Spoilers.
Rage.
That's
Rage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with the weight, and then he shoots the rope, and he's like,
shoots
I can't
the
believe
rope,
I made that shot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The only good line of that
You've
whole
never
movie.
done that before? That was a great bit in an otherwise forgettable movie.
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ. So Stanley continues to run with the remaining chip, barely avoiding gunfire. He tosses the chip out from behind cover in order to distract the soldier and get a jump on him. This allows Stanley to get a couple of good hits in before the soldier just starts beating the ever-loving dog shit out of Stanley. Now, this is another part that fucking pissed me off. Stanley puts the pearl of VX gas in a vest pocket on his chest. He is thrown through a fucking window. They're grappling on the ground.
Doesn't
and
need to make sense. It's fucking entertainment. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, this shit does
Michael
not.
Bay.
That's a lot of that movie. That's a lot of this movie is who gives a
Absolutely.
shit. It's entertainment.
Yeah. And good thing it doesn't break, because as Stanley is being choked to death by this man, he pulls the ball out, forces it into the soldier's mouth, says something like, chew on this, and cracks him in the jaw, breaking the glass ampule, which immediately, like, the guy starts foaming at the mouth and choking. That's a cool scene. As Stanley,
it's the best death scene.
It is
Yes,
it's a cool
agreed.
one. Stanley staggers away, then gives himself an atropine shot to his heart. Also, Tarantino inspired, most likely. This is real Pulp Fiction-y. Tarantino was just like, why don't I throw a couple of scenes from my other movies in here? I think we get some really good acting, like just body work from Cage on this, because like his spasming on the ground and the scene with the needle, not bad.
It brought me back to Highlander when Connor McLeod's doing like the quickening convulsions at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
Hey guys. I have news. I have terrible news.
What?
Is it that there's a new Highlander movie?
Is that we should probably do another ad break because I don't see us getting done in the next 5 minutes.
I think we can stretch it out. I mean, how much longer
with our outro and shit? Sure, just fucking roll the
All right.
ads. I don't
Roll
even have
the
anything
ads.
clever for this. We're just fucking hanging on by our fucking fingernails.
I'm so hot right now. My room is so fucking hot.
I slept a full 5 minutes last night. I am barely here, folks.
Air conditioning is so expensive. Please subscribe to our Patreon. I would love to put my air conditioning on.
Patreon.com/NickCageFight. Here's some ads.
Much better.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay.
All right, let's wrap
being
this.
An asshole.
let's wrap this so Josh can go sleep for, I don't know, 6 hours.
Yeah, just
30 years.
Just a little bit, teeny bit. So, Stanley has just given himself a shot of atropine to the heart, saving him from the exposure to the gas, which was apparently an iffy proposition. Stanley pulls out the green flares they were given originally. The SEAL team was supposed to pop green flares when they retook the island in order to indicate that the threat had been neutralized. He fires them off. Also, I've never gotten to play with flares. Is that how they work? Like, you pull a thing and, like, smack the end against something and they start smoking? That seems cool as fuck.
The ones that I've fucked around with are... You pull the cap off, and the cap has basically
turn it upside down, right, and like strike it across the top.
You have
like
to strike it across like a match, exactly. Yes, because it has like that sandpaper thing on top there.
Yeah.
These are the slam it against the ground and they go off type. I want some of those. Those seem fun. Yeah. He managed to stagger his way outside and falls to his knees so dramatically and starts waving the flares over his head. We get "May God have mercy on our souls" cliche line from Paxton, I believe, as the jets approach the island. But there's some spotters set up, like looking for activity on the island, and they see the green flares. And Carla's crying as these bombers are approaching the island. The spotters call out the flares as soon as they see them. They call in the abort, and the fighter jets start to pull up. Unfortunately, one of them has already dropped the thermite plasma MacGuffin bombs. The bombs hit the back of the island.
So fucking unnecessary, too. Like, in a storytelling sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, literally, like, 4 seconds later, we get, oh, don't worry, it only hit the back. Why have it go off at all, then?
Because something has to blow Cage's character into the water. Are you kidding me? We need that.
I thought it was just something had to blow up because it's Michael Bay.
Also that. So, we do immediately learn. Just the back of the island was hit. All the cells with all those hostages. Bet you fucking forgot about those fucking hostages.
I definitely did.
Yeah, I did.
Stanley's blown into the water. Luckily, Mason is there to dive in and save him. The command center tries to raise Stanley on the radio. He hears it from the radio that Mason has, and Mason tosses it to him. Stanley responds. He confirms all of the hostages are alive. And then the director Womack gets on the line and is like, where's Mason? What happened to Mason? Where can we pick up Mason? Stanley tells him that Mason died. He then...
Wait, how can he confirm that all of the hostages are alive? They've been in cells for 48 hours, and I'm sure some of them were old as shit.
I don't think all of them were in cells. Some of them, maybe. They were on a tour of Alcatraz, but...
Yeah, no, I was just thinking they were probably jerking their gherkin down
there. Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, when you're an incel.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little bit of an attempt at clever wordplay there.
Yeah,
I know,
me too.
I know.
It
fell
awful.
flat. It fell real flat. But anyway, yeah. But you're absolutely right, Rich. There's no way Stanley would have known anything about that. He hadn't even seen any of the hostages at any point in time. Even when they were locked up, Mason and Stanley were away from hostages, or they would have just released them too. So after he gets off the radio, Stanley tells Mason that the director Womack tore up the pardon, and Mason's like, yeah, I fucking know. I knew he was going to do that. He's a piece of shit. Stanley tells Mason to take the SEALs underwater gear, and then go to a specific room in a specific hotel he was staying in San Francisco to get clothes and $200 cash. And Mason thanks him. Mason also tells him after all this is over, he should go check out a specific town in Kansas and gives him a little slip of paper. The slip of paper indicates a church in this town in Kansas and directs him to the hollow leg of a specific pew. And then Mason takes off. The FBI team goes to retrieve Stanley from the island. Paxton goes himself, and Stanley repeats his lie about Mason's demise, adding that the body was vaporized, in the explosion. Ashes scattered out to sea. Paxton, wink nods, says, "Oh yeah, scattered out to sea. That makes sense." And then Womack comes up, and Stanley repeats himself, and Womack is like, "Can bodies vaporize?" It's like, you're the fucking director of the FBI, dude. What is going on here?
These are things you should know. They're not above your pay grade.
But also, it's fun. Womack's a bad guy, and he's also a dumb guy, because bad guys have to be dumb guys. You know what I mean?
True.
So Paxton and Stanley both reassure the director that surely a body can vaporize. So this was the weird turn with Paxton's character that kind of came out of nowhere, because he acts like a bullheaded dick in the first scene, and is mean to Stanley right off the bat, and then completely turns and is nice to Stanley, and then backs up Stanley's lie because of the injustice of fucking over Mason again. We cut at this point to Carla and Stanley running from a church as a priest chases them, calling them vandals. They take off in a particularly old-timey vehicle for the time setting we're in, but it has "Just Married" written on the back window and cans tied to the back of it.
100% one of just Cage's fuck-around cars.
Of course.
Yeah,
of
probably.
course. And Stanley is examining a roll of microfilm as they're driving, and asks Carla if she wants to know who really killed JFK. And then the credits roll. So, it's a little bit hackier than I recall it being.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot about this film
about how many fucking screenwriters there were.
Yeah, I did not know that shit. And it makes a lot of sense in retrospect. But it's entertaining. Michael Bay's not wrong in that it's entertainment, and everything's made up and the story doesn't really matter. And
the real rock was the screenwriters we met along the way.
Those poor 3 credited writers.
I don't even remember most of their names.
Yeah, I'm not pulling up my file again. But I feel bad for them.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do, because I feel like they got fucking shafted hard as shit in the making of this movie. But again, we got an entertaining Nick Cage ensemble film. A little wacky, certainly cartoonish at times, hacky in some of its dialogue, but I mean, come on. It's not a bad watch, and I do think it's still quintessential. It's the 3 films that represent the Holy Trinity are a linchpin in the filmography of Nick Cage. Without those 3 movies, this career breaks a different way, in my opinion, which is arguable. I mean, it's a hell of a run, specifically considering the fact that just before the Holy Trinity released in order was Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, which is the only time our boy got an Oscar.
Yeah.
Got an Oscar, now he's getting paid.
Yep.
Yeah.
He got paid for 3 years straight. It was this, then Con Air, and then Face Off, which is like an insane fucking run. And I think it does ramp up in quality as it goes for those 3.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, Face Off is definitely the best of the three.
We have to,
because it has more cohesively directed action scenes. I have a problem with the way Michael Bay directs action. Most of the action in this movie happens in rooms that are lit blue, that are almost monochrome, and there's, like I said earlier, a cut every 2.5 seconds. That's not how you shoot action.
Sure, and I don't disagree with that. The one thing I would say is we have to wait. We have to reserve judgment on the strength or weakness of all of these until we do our Con Air episode.
Yeah.
Because Con Air has a lot going for it. We've got Buscemi and Malkovich in it. And
Cusack.
And Cusack. There's a lot going on there. And that is another entertaining as shit film. So I do think The Rock is going to prove to be the weakest of the three. But Con Air and Face Off are going to face off against each other when we do our watch of Con Air.
I still think Face Off's coming out on top.
It might. It has a lot going for it. But we have to wait and see. We have to see how it hits us. But yeah, the Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to watch those three movies. You have to. It represents the core strength of our boy in blue, Nick Cage here. So
the greasy bum boy in blue.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, as if this was going to end any other way, watch The Rock. It's a good time. Don't pay too close attention to it. It's fine. It's fine.
Watch it with your boys while you're drinking a sixer.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Maybe
just
on
have
a Saturday.
Just rock night.
Absolutely. So, wow. Coming off of a Holy Trinity flick, what do we have in front of us? What's next?
So funny story is I forgot to roll the dice until just now.
All right.
Hey.
So I'm going to give you guys two options.
I love options.
Both are not good.
Okay.
All
right, we're back in the trenches.
Now, we're back in the trenches. Do you want to see a silly comedy from 1994? Or do you want to watch a film that we already saw the second, it wasn't like a sequel, but sort of a sequel?
Oh, God. Yeah, we'll watch Deadfall, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah, you knew it was Deadfall.
I knew it was Deadfall.
What is Deadfall?
It's the movie where Cage's character carries over into Arsenal.
Yeah. I kind of wanted the other one was comedy. I love 90s comedies.
It was Guarding Tess.
Hey, actually, I remember that one being kind of fucking funny. I've seen that one before. It's the bodyguard, but funny.
So we'll do Deadfall, then we'll do Guarding Tess.
Okay.
We'll go back to back.
I think we do need a stinker real quick, because Guarding Tess, I'm pretty sure, is pretty solid. Like, a solid 3 out of 5.
All right, wait, so Arsenal is the sequel to Deadfall?
Correct.
It's sort of.
Sort of.
His brother's still alive in Deadfall.
Actually, from what I understand, Cage dies at the end of Deadfall, and they just brought the character back because they didn't give a shit.
What?
Because it's entertainment. Who gives a shit?
All right, fine. I'm in. I'm back in.
But this movie also holds a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, baby.
Okay.
Why did they make a movie with that same character set in the same universe?
The first one did.
I was trying to kill me, man.
Real quick, a actor who was in this film is also in that. Michael Bain.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Who called this one of the worst films he ever made.
Dope.
Self-awareness is hard, so credit to him.
Also, Peter Fonda, Charlie Sheen, and Talia Shire are here.
Okay.
Good grief.
Talia Shire is John Schwartzman, the cinematographer from the movie we just watched, wife.
Yes.
It is such a small circle, huh?
Isn't it, though?
All right. Well, you know what? I feel good about this. Let's do it. That is going to wrap it for us on The Rock. Join us next time for Deadfall, the prequel to Arsenal, sort of. In the meantime, check us out on social media. We're at cagefight_pod on the rapidly sinking ship that is X. Drunken Uncles, you know what to do. Patreon one more time, just for the hard sell.
Patreon.com/NickCageFight. This is the hard sell. Give us $1, and for every $1 we get, we will take 1 hour away of Josh's sleep schedule.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like lifetime-wise or per night?
No, I'm going to store them all up and just cash them in my last year of life. I'm just going to stay up for 18 days straight and drop dead.
Yeah, we're going to strap him into the machine from The Princess Bride.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That'll just make me mostly dead, though. You know?
Yeah, true. It only makes you mostly dead. But then we have to go see Billy Crystal, which I won't enjoy.
Yeah, if you got to keep me awake, you got to strap me into the machine from the end of Clockwork Orange. That'll
the Ludovico method.
Yes.
Clockwork Orange, and then put fucking Next on.
Oh my god.
That'll rehabilitate me.
I mean, that's not going to make you like Next. The point of the Ludovico method was making you disgusted at what you're watching, which you already are.
Yeah, no, but, yeah. That's... What happens, though, if you overload me with that? Is it like a double negative?
No, if you ever see Next again, you'll drop dead then and there.
Okay,
and you'll have to be revived by Billy Crystal meth.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, I would not want to do that with Next, because that means that we have to have somebody else in that room giving you eye drops, and I would not want to expose somebody else to Next.
Yeah, that's some toxic movie. Don't do that to
We
anyone
could put, like,
else.
blinders on them, like welder's goggles or something. We could figure something out.
Yeah.
To spare the innocents and punish the guilty.
Yeah.
All right, I think that does it for us. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. And just if you take anything away from this, dear listener, let it be this: we appreciate you.
Bye bye to the Rock.